Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Combat Chatters podcast. And this week we're going to be breaking down the previous week's UFC Fight Night between Rebus and Namajunas, as well as the upcoming UFC on ESPN Fight Night, Blanchfield vs Firiot. Should be a good one.
Yeah, decent. Well, I say decent. We're stuck in a bit of a rut with these fight nights. We're just pushing through till UFC 300. Yeah, it's another one of these, but I would say this one's a bit more stacked with like star value wise, wouldn't you?
Yeah, no, definitely. So I think that this card, like, it definitely does have some good fights on it.
Mm,
See, like, Bellagio and, Luque and Buckley,
yeah, it's a good
co-main,
fight.
that's a very, very good one. That could be a fight night in itself,
Yeah,
really.
yeah. I think to be honest, I wouldn't even be mad if that was the main event, but I guess the women's main event is for a number one contender fight, and the winner's definitely getting a title shot. So, yeah, it's understandable, really.
Yeah, definitely. So, and even then, like, Chris Weidman is on
Mm,
here as well, and he's been about for a few years,
yeah, just
2011.
just a bit.
22 fights in 2011. I know he's had a lot of
He
issues
had
though.
22 fights in 2011.
No, it's just 2000.
Since
That would be
2011.
that would be cool though.
Yeah, again, that was fighters back in the day. That is,
That's is that a fight every like 2 weeks more or less,
yeah,
basically.
more, yeah, something like that. I don't, I'm not good at maths. I'm not working that out.
Well, it's just I think it's just slightly over every 2 weeks, which it's like Muay Thai now, really.
Yeah, yeah. We don't want to be seeing Chris Weidman do Muay Thai anytime soon.
You don't want to see him have 20 fights in a year.
No. But yeah, we're going to touch on briefly the card from last week as well. A few interesting fights. Briefly going to touch on first. I don't know if you saw on the early prelims. I'm sure you did because it was the thing going around. That was probably the biggest talking point of the card. I think it was second fight of the night. Andre Lima wins the fight by disqualification due to getting bit, and it was a nasty bite. Did you manage to catch that?
Yeah, no, it's a bit silly, really. I think that's a point
Yeah.
personally, but
I was happy when I saw it. I want to see more of that in the sport.
yeah, it's a very impressive bite as well, albeit considering like to think, maybe he like practiced getting rid of his gum shield in his mouth, like with his tongue or something
Yeah.
beforehand, just to make sure he had the maximum kind of potency. Just that
Potency.
potency, that
Yeah.
potency of a bite. I mean, it's not a nice thing at all, is it really? And it's a
No.
bit silly as well because he's not been in the UFC for very long at all,
I mean,
has he?
that's his debut, I'm pretty
That's his
sure.
debut. I mean, that's one way to enter, I guess,
And he's
and
been,
exit.
yeah, 20 years old as well. And the thing is, yeah, we've seen before a few fighters get bit. I think there was a Clay Guida one. Diego Sanchez got bit by Mickey Gall. I'm pretty sure he put a video on Twitter after the fight of the bite mark. This one, the worst by far. But you would understand it more if it was like in senses of when Mike Tyson bit Holyfield's ear off. I'm not excusing it, but Mike Tyson was getting roughed up. There was a lot of headbutts in the clinch. It was a real rough and dirty fight where Mike Tyson couldn't really land anything. He was starting to get dominated. So you can't understand just that animal instinct inside of someone like that to just do whatever they can to damage the other guy. This guy was it was a competitive fight. He was getting takedowns, and he just decides to bite the guy and chuck his whole UFC career down the drain. Being 20 years old, now I don't think they'll ever re-sign him. We see how stubborn. I mean, this guy's so young. I mean, he's going to be coming towards the end of his prime in 15 years if you actually like look at it like that on how roughly MMA goes. And he might be able to outlast Dana White, and if a new owner comes in, maybe he'll get a shot in the UFC when he's about 30. But it's crazy because, yeah, no one's going to be going near him really after that.
None you wouldn't want to, but you
No.
want to have a bite of her arm.
Yeah.
No, I think that is really peculiar behaviour, and I don't understand why you would do it, even if like the circumstances were in your favour, because the UFC will just cut you.
Yeah, like brutal like that.
And surely that's something which you think beforehand. Like, I mean, it's probably pretty intentional.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's not something which, obviously, it's not to say like that doesn't ever happen accidentally. Like, maybe, you have your mouth open and, like,
That's what I was thinking.
at the
But
same time, he did also, like, chomp down a little bit.
yeah, that was a hell of a bite mark, wasn't
I reckon he's going for a bicep, like,
it?
just trying to. And maybe it's a tactic. Maybe he's gotten away with it in the past and he's just got this record of secretly biting his opponents.
Just a little memento to leave the guy with.
Well, that's the thing, though. Like, how like people have like cauliflower ear. Maybe
Yeah.
that's like his what's the word? Memento. Of showing
Mm.
that if anything, he's really like honoring his opponents
I
with the
think
like visual reminder
yeah.
that they've got to fight him.
I think we should go back and see in any of his last fights if any opponent leaves with like chunks out of their arms or anything because maybe it's like a running theme. Or maybe he just forgot to have his pre-fight meal he hadn't eaten that day, and he started hallucinating. Maybe saw a big like turkey leg in front of him, and because that's possible too. Dehydration, it causes you. I don't know what they call it when you're in the desert and you think you see loads of
Like a
water and stuff.
mirage.
Yeah, like a mirage. Maybe he thought it was like a big turkey leg or something.
Maybe, and I think that is probably what happened. Like,
Yeah,
I can't see any other reason for it logically. Anyway, I honestly I feel sorry for him.
yeah, yeah.
Honest
Same.
mistake. You decide to
I
buy it,
say
and
re-sign him. Let's start a petition to re-sign this guy.
yeah, and then title shot as well.
Yeah,
I mean, the boy's flyweight. Come on.
yeah, definitely. What Steve Ursu's getting a title shot. This guy deserves one,
I
in
was gonna
my
say they
opinion.
both have the same amount of fights, probably.
Right, we'll get into the main card, get stuck into this, briefly touch on some of the fights, some more than others, because there was a couple. Now I'm looking back on it, it was actually a really good main card. The fights were really good. Um, Getting into the first fight, Pandia against how would I say that? Pajulo. I'll say that.
Pajulo, yeah,
Yeah,
I'd say
Pajulo.
that's
Padilla looked really good. We spoke many times, and we're going to speak about it a lot in this pod. Fighters being really good at range. He using a lot of front kicks. His jab looking really nice and snappy, and managed to find the big right hand and getting the submission too. It looked really good compared to his first fight in the UFC. Maybe you see him settling down now, and you can't always show what you've really got to show in your first fight. So yeah, really good win from him. How impressed were you?
no, definitely so. I think we're seeing a lot of these Mexican fighters have this kind of rangy power.
Yeah,
It's almost like it's kind of the opposite to how it like used to be in boxing, where they'd be like a lot shorter, a lot more stockier, a lot more
yeah.
powerful. A lot of them are becoming a lot rangier, and we are seeing that with the we saw that a couple weeks back, UFC Mexico, Zellberger, and there was
Yeah.
another one as well.
Mm.
The one I can't remember his name exactly, but the one who like he doesn't look very big, but he hits really really hard.
Can't remember. There's so many these days.
And it's really interesting as well because he's very good technically.
Mm.
Like his
Yeah.
boxing, his like
Yeah.
long range, like you said, his boxing, his jabs, his straights, very very good. So it's really exciting to see. He's had 3 fights in the UFC. The one was a decision, so it will be interesting to see where he goes on from now. I believe he's fighting someone next week, or he's fought someone
Really?
he's fighting next week.
Oh right, yeah, yeah.
He's definitely having a fight next
Carl
week.
Nelson, yeah. Course on his fight next week. Yeah, so overall just really impressed with his skills. Obviously coming into the UFC getting a massive knockout against Arosa, who won on the prelims, I'm pretty sure if my memory is correct. So yeah, overall really good performance. Getting into the next fight, this was the only one on the main card I picked wrong. Billy Q, a fan favorite. Sad to see him get, if we're going to be real, completely dominated. Yusuf Zalal looking as best as he ever has before. Like his striking looked so clean in this fight and managing to hurt Billy Q on loads of different occasions. And where I thought Billy Q would get the win in the ground game, he dominated him there as well in the first round and subbed him in the second round. So overall, Yusuf Zalal looked like a top contender here. Really, like. You only smoke someone like Billy Quarantillo if you're really, really good, and he's shown that he's on maybe a different level to what we've ever thought of him before because he came out and looked so sharp. I think he took a little bit of time off and maybe, yeah, took 2 years off and maybe that has served him really good. So I'm really excited to see him in that fight again.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, like you said, when you see somebody doing such a dominant performance,
Mm,
to think that he was kind of on him the whole time,
yeah.
and there was no breathing room. It's not an easy thing to do at all. So yeah, no, really impressive performance, and like you said, it's good to see where he goes from now on.
Yeah, getting into the next one. This, in my opinion, was the standout of the night, performance wise. Obviously, someone bit someone, which was the main talking point. But this Peyton Talbot showing how young is Peyton Talbot because he's so young and his striking looks elite as well. Beating someone like Cameron Simon is not easy. Simon is a killer at that weight class, another real top prospect. So yeah, really impressed with Peyton Talbot. What did you think?
Yeah, no, just the explosivity, the agency, really.
Yeah,
Like the knee on
yeah.
the coming. I mean, that was brutal, really, and he was on it from the get go. He hits really hard by the looks of it.
Yeah, it does.
He does, and I think that what we have seen from him previously is that maybe the grappling does struggle a little bit,
Mm,
but he's definitely making up for it on the feet at the moment.
yeah, yeah. He's the power was the main thing because Simon, the size difference was the main thing that stood out to me as well. Simon looked a lot smaller, and Peyton Talbot really just hurting him with everything he threw.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, do you reckon he's like a natural bantamweight?
What, Talbot or Simon?
Talbot.
He looks big, doesn't he? I don't know if Simon's just really small or because I was thinking in the fight, could Simon even move down? Maybe I was thinking that during the fight, maybe not. I'm not too sure about what he walks around at, but Peyton Talbot just towering over him, and you could really see the size difference on because Simon had his moments in the first round too. After he recovered, he landed some good shots. He's really good technical fighter, but Peyton Talbot, everything he touched him with really hurt him, and that showed with the finishing sequence. The left hook was so nasty that put him down. It was just an insane show of power.
He is a 5'10", Peyton Talbot, which for bantamweight,
It's not ridiculous,
but
but it's
it's
quite
on the taller edge. So I
yeah,
definitely say, if we look at a lot of these bantamweights, like obviously it's not as anything as ridiculous as like flyweight, but you look at some of these previous, fighters at these lower weights, like the likes of, your TJ Dillashaws and whatnot, like
yeah,
they were not big people at all. And obviously on the more extreme ends, the John Dodsons and
yeah.
whatnot.
He was
And
he was always a flyweight, that guy.
yeah, like the season of tough though, like where you watch them all like come in and like fight, and like you realize that the octagons either really big or they're all
Yeah,
just really small.
yeah. I mean, you see bantamweights though; they're getting a lot bigger these days, aren't they? Like the Corey Sandhagens, the O'Malley's. There's more in that weight class too. Even Umar, really big bantamweight. So height wise, you're seeing more coming at like 5'11", 5'10", even close to 6 foot. So yeah, the height maybe is just more advanced weight cutting strategies these days and stuff. So you can be taller and get to a lower weight. That's probably the reason for it.
That's probably very beneficial as well, I imagine.
Yeah.
Like especially when you're a few inches taller than
Mm,
your opponent. Like it's the range. The range doesn't always correlate,
mm.
but a lot of the time it does. And when it does, it's a big factor.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with the range is most MMA fighters still don't really know how to keep someone on the end of their punch and just circle around the whole time. We see it more now with fighters like Randy Brown, even Chidi, who we're going to be talking about later. Chidi, a really good fighter using his range. But yeah, seeing a lot more of it now, and especially like in the champions and the top contenders. O'Malley is so good at it. I don't think we've even spoke about O'Malley because I was ill the week of that fight, but yeah, he just put on a masterclass over Chito, just showing like, how to keep someone on the end of your strikes, and we're seeing more people do it now. So that's why we're seeing at these lower weight classes, the taller sort of fighters, even if they're not good wrestlers, they're really hard to get in on. It's just yeah, it's becoming a real problem in MMA more these days, which I'm glad to see.
All that leg reach.
Yeah. Getting into the next fight, again another banger fight. Uh, all of the fights on the main card so far are really good until we get on to the next one. But Edmund Shabazian versus AJ Dobson. AJ Dobson struggled in the UFC so far, but no, I think he won his first fight actually. But he looked so quick in this fight. AJ Dobson, the hand speed compared to Edmund Shabazian was the thing that was causing Edmund a lot of problems. I was surprised on the night when Edmund brought it back because it was a real rough start for him, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, definitely. So it was all in the first round as well.
Mm,
So the fact he was able to bring it back because he was basically being dominated.
yeah, yeah,
Like he
getting
was
tagged up.
absolutely dominated, really. And it's one of those things. When you have power, sometimes that's all you need.
Mm,
That's all you need, that finishing power, really.
yeah,
Because if that lasted for maybe another round or so, I don't know if it would have.
yeah.
Like there would have been a lot of real risk. It wasn't like the most entertaining fight to watch.
Oh, I disagree.
Well, competitive.
Well,
That's what I mean. Like not as in, I meant competitive.
mm,
I realised what I said now. It was exciting to watch, but it wasn't a competitive
yeah,
fight. I mean, it was very much a matter of AJ Dobson kind of on it from the get go, especially for wrestling as well.
yeah. I mean, AJ Dobson just managing to. I mean, Edmund Shabazian managing just to blast through him in the end. Um, Overall, Edmund still so young. I think only 26 years old, and yeah, still so more to go. Getting into the next one, the heavyweight fight, the worst fight on the main card. Carl Williams against Justin Taffer. This was just a story of a real boring sort of wrestling display from Carl Williams. Just again, these sort of out of shape fat heavyweights, just you never know what you're going to get with them really because Justin Taffer can look so good on the feet, but you just got to try and put these people on their backs and they are lost. He had no idea what to do on the ground.
Yeah, no, he looked like very unresponsive.
Mm,
Like he had like no answer for it at all, really. And
yeah,
you expect to just see a bit more. I didn't think on the feet he was really trying much either.
no,
Like he just wasn't throwing nearly enough. it was very much like he was almost waiting to be shot at.
Yeah.
And I think realistically, when you're fighting a fight like that, you're not winning.
Mm.
And surely at one point or another, you think to yourself like, all right, well, I need to try and change these up a little bit.
But you can't do nothing when you can't stuff a takedown because
Well, yeah, but even on the ground, though, he still wasn't doing anything, or he
yeah,
couldn't do
I just
anything.
don't think you can. Like it's that bad. We saw it with Taito Vasa as well when he got taken down against Tybora. Just they're so lost. Like Tuvasa was pushing the choke tighter into his neck. I mean, I don't know if there's something in the water with these big Maui fighters, but unless they just expect everyone to stand on the feet and brawl with them, it seems like they should just all go to bare knuckle. I think that would be the most entertaining thing.
Yeah, yeah. I also don't think that like many of them had long careers though.
No,
You know what I mean? Like I think that what's that bare knuckle is it worse? Do you reckon? Like for head injuries when UFC? I don't know.
probably, probably.
Surely they all like break their hand though first, like these
Yeah,
heavyweights, like
I think
before they can actually do any real damage.
that's what's. I mean, but you get someone like Tai Tuivasa or even Justin Taffer. Justin Taffer looks nasty on the feet. Like if you give him time on the feet, he's gonna knock you out. You whack these guys in a bare knuckle ring, it'll be a slaughter for most of these heavyweights. They will not be able to stand in there with people because they're so tough as well. Their chins they've got are insane. So I'd love to see. I mean, Tai Tuivasa mainly. He's probably got. If he don't win his next fight in the UFC, he'll probably be cut, which is mad because he was in the top five like just over a year ago. But it's a cruel game. You see a lot of those type of heavyweights being cleared out of the top 10 now, and you're getting more people like Volkov, Aspinall, John Jones coming back now, being top of that, and Cyril Gane. A lot of these athletic, big heavyweights, muscular sort of guys. John Jones probably last on the list, but he's champion because he's John Jones at the end of the day. So, yeah, these heavyweights. I think you can't really be like this and a heavyweight now. This generation's kind of being flushed out, like the Derek Lewis's, the Tai Tuivasas, I mean, Taffer was never really at the top of the tree, but if this was 3 years ago, Justin Taffer would probably be in the top 10 right now. So,
This is an era of really big hitters,
mm,
but very
yeah,
basic
yeah,
kind of like you said, it's like why Joe and is probably doing so well at the moment. You know
exactly,
what I mean?
yeah,
Like
exactly,
he's on a tear because he is just a different kind of. He's like the new. It's like a new generation of heavyweights.
mm,
We talk about like new generation fighters, like your Gamrot, your Sarukins, your even like your Makhachev and whatnot to an extent.
yeah,
Makhachev definitely. He's got that wrestling, but he's also got the striking. He's
mm,
very complete. We're seeing new generation heavyweights,
yeah,
and it's really good to see as well because the heavyweight division, like some divisions, not all of them, the heavyweight division is kind of just in shambles, really.
mm. Yeah, I mean, and thank God it's slowly being. I mean, I'm not saying Carl Williams is contributing to this, but it's slowly being revamped. And yeah, I think to be honest, middleweight's probably the worst male division now. That's my opinion. I think there's just a lot of matchups there that just show to me that I don't know how good any of these guys really are. So yeah, that's the most interesting one I'd see. For the males division, I mean, not that long ago, the heavyweights were terrible. Not terrible to watch. It was fun, but like you had like a lot of just weird sort of Derek Lewis just crumbling against the fence and then just landing an overhand and always just changing the fight. We're not seeing as much of that now, which I mean can take some of the fun part out of it. You see, people like Jolene Almeida kind of like just grappling their way through these fights. But I mean, you look at these other heavyweights like Tom and stuff, like it's still very exciting. One punch can just change everything. That is what we like to see with the heavyweights. But yeah, Justin Tafa was never landing that one punch in this. Getting on to the main event, Amanda Ribas versus Rose Namajunas. Good to see Rose get back in the win column. First win at this flyweight weight class. She's now ranked number 8 in the world, I think, number 7, something like that. So kind of stealing Ribas's spot. And yeah, overall not loads to say on this fight. Rose just the grappling was where she really took over the fight. I'd say she just edged out on the feet as well. Just I think her defense was kind of saving her from a lot of the big shots Ribas was throwing. Rose did a really good job at kind of seeing everything Ribas wanted to do. But yeah, I think if she wants to challenge for the title at this weight class, she needs to sign up, kind of still find a bit of that old form that she used to show in the cage. I think Trevor Whitman has a big part to play in that. He hasn't been in her corner for the last few fights, so yeah. But overall, how impressed were you with Rose? Did you think she could have done a lot more?
I think that you can always do a bit more, and
Mm,
I don't think it was like an unimpressive performance. So it was an impressive performance. However, I think a lot of it was size.
Yeah,
The size just didn't feel right. And like you hear, you hear a lot of people talk about it, and there's a reason for it.
yeah,
Like it is genuinely, it just doesn't quite look right now. Obviously, you fight at what you fight at because you have to fight at what you fight at if you want to kind of like progress and whatnot. However, at the end of the day, it's not a big person
mm,
at all, really. And I think that when you look at someone like Ribas, who is quite towering at times, it can be very awkward. I thought Ribas looked pretty good at times,
yeah.
although, like you said, it's a grappling. That's what it was.
Yeah, Rebus looked. To be fair, you got to think Rebus been finished a few times in her career by people you would not even mention the same name as with Rose. So to come out and she's recently moved up to this weight class as well. So I think she's dealing with the weight a bit better than Rose. Rose, in my opinion, it looked like because for me, people who hate on Rose. Rose is one of my favorite fighters, but with Rose, you either get someone who doesn't want to be there, and you can tell that during the fight. And I don't think this was one of those fights. Like you could tell she was switched on. She really wanted to win, but she was just kind of struggling to still kind of push the last few combinations out. It was a lot of single shots, and yeah, Rebus really hard to kind of pass guard on the ground and stuff as well. Really safe there as well. I thought I picked Rose submission. I thought Rose would get the submission when it did go to the ground, but yeah, overall Rebus really good performance as well. We'll get into the main card of next week as well. So bit more of an interesting one to talk about. Um, it's first fight on the card: Chidi and Kuchani against Reese McGee. Reese McGee struggled a little bit in the UFC so far. Chidi, in my opinion, really good fighter, but again, you can kind of turn the fight if you really put it on him. What are your thoughts on this one?
So this is an interesting one. I feel like a fighter like Shidi Nchigani, this is the kind of fight which Reese McGee kind of needs.
Mm,
A fight which isn't probably going to have loads of heavy wrestling. A fight which there isn't going to be a lot of grappling. Reese McGee, I don't know how much of his grappling is there as of yet. I know that
yeah.
obviously he's been in the UFC for quite some time. I know he
Mm.
might have had some time off and whatnot.
Yeah,
I don't think
I
he.
think he went back to Cage Warriors for a few
Yeah,
fights and then got back, didn't he?
and it's interesting because that's something which he struggled with prior, and I think that is something which he, by the looks of it, from his most recent fights, he looks like he still struggles with.
Mm,
Although I don't think that's going to be too much of an issue. He does well on the feet.
yeah,
He does very well on the feet. But with Yukani, he'll kind of he will, although he won't necessarily wrestle you loads and loads, he will very much utilize these clinches,
yeah, he's very good in the
especially
clinch.
when like coming in with knees and whatnot.
Hmm.
And I think that there's just the strength in the clinch.
Yeah,
Like this is somebody who had like a pretty big war with Corey
yeah,
Rodriguez.
that fight was crazy.
Not somebody which everyone can just have like a war with
Mm,
really. This is somebody which is very very strong, and I think the physicality of it, especially against the cage, I don't know how well Reese McKee is going to respond to it. I think a lot of the damage is going to be there. I could see a finish.
yeah.
I could also though see a decision just from Chidi laying it on in the cage.
I think the main thing about the decision, do you not think it favors Reese McGee the longer the fight goes? Because Chidi is the type of guy who will just look for the finish, and it's shown if you can kind of weather a storm against him. It was shown in his last fight as well that he was really hurting Schick early, and then Schick comes back in the last few seconds of the first round. It doesn't take long to gas Chi out, in my opinion, and if Reese McGee can kind of survive an onslaught, maybe he'll be able to get the finish later on in the fight. He's a decent striker, but for me, Reese McGee, there's just too many openings on the feet. He is a decent striker, but he's got a lazy left hand. He doesn't really bring it back properly. You can catch him a lot in the pocket. In the pocket, when you pressure him, he drops his hand in weird positions and leaves himself open for a lot of strikes. And Chidi, he uses every weapon, kicks, elbows, knees, everything. And I just think this is a real dangerous matchup for Reese McGee. So my prediction, I'm gonna go Chidi. I'm going first round knockout.
Okay.
I think Bruce McGee is really tough, so if he can, I will not be surprised if he survives the early storm and it gets into a bit of a messy fight and maybe goes to distance or a late finish for Reese McGee. But I think Chidi's just so dangerous early on. He's got a lot of first round finishes, and Reese McGee, in my opinion, is just a bit too hittable on the feet.
Yeah, no, so I'm going to go slightly different. I'm going to go finish, but I'm going to go second round.
Mm, yeah. Getting into the next one, a guy we spoke about a lot on this pod, Bill Alger against Carl Nelson. Bill Aljo's a guy we both like. Everyone likes Bill. He comes to scrap every time. He loves getting the fans involved when he's in there. For me, this is a sort of stylistic perfect matchup for him on the feet. We saw in his last fight he managed to show his grappling skills as well, but this one, Carl Nelson, very experienced fighter, so you're probably not going to see him get out grappled by Bill Aljo, but Bill Aljo's speed and weird, awkward style, I think is going to cause Nelson a lot of problems.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think that, like you said, it's awkward style. That's what it's all about. His movement is very he doesn't really telegraph anything,
Mm,
and it's very clean. It's very sharp, and it's very hard to kind of like with Carl Nelson. There are lots of fighters which are very basic, and sometimes the most basic fighters are often the best. Really, you
yeah.
look at your Sean Strickland,
Mm,
etc. Although Sean can do more, he just doesn't. So I think that with this here, Bellagio, I think that the pressure is going to be a bit too much for Carl.
mm,
I think that with Carl, he very much fights on the back foot.
yeah.
He's very much almost like a counter striker. However, I think that when you fight someone like Bellagio, it's very hard to fight the counter striker because it's not telegraphed and because of how he moves. He kind of
Mm,
steps in and out,
yeah.
and he's always kind of changing like where he's coming at you from.
I don't think he even knows where he's going to be coming at you from a lot of the time.
And that's the thing with Bellagio, we don't necessarily see him like finishing opponents left, right, and center.
Mm,
We don't. And Carl Nelson, in fairness, is a very tough opponent.
yeah.
So for this one, I'm going to go Bill Algeo decision.
Yeah, that's the same as I'm going with Bell Roger decision. I do think Bill is a bit too easy to hit on the feet at sometimes, but I just don't think Carl Nelson would sort of bring. For me, to beat Bill Eljo, you attack the legs early, you stop the movement, and we were seeing it with TJ Brown. The straight punches were causing so many problems. Carl Nelson does not have the same pop on his punches as TJ Brown, so I think Bill Eljo will be a lot more on the front foot in this one and just push the pace. We know how good his cardio is. We've seen him use it so many times. In the Herbert Burns fight is the best example, just surviving, an early onslaught of just finishing submissions and managing to gas him out and get him out of there. So yeah, I'm going Bill Elgio decision as well. Really, really good matchmaking though. I'm excited for this fight. A lot of good fights on this main card. Getting into the next one, Razabayev versus Dumas. This one is an interesting one. Dumas does tend to show big improvements every time he fights, and Rezabayev, we only seen him once in the UFC, almost having 50 professional fights already. At the age of 30, it's just crazy. And yeah, what are you going with in this one?
So this is an awkward one really because Rutherford, he's an opponent which like I tried to really look into him,
Mm,
and he's fought in like a lot of different places.
yeah, it's weird. Some strange
It's
ones.
the strange ones, and I think that a lot of the time, like we see these fighters who fight in these strange ones who have like lots and lots of fights, and it's kind of really hard to gauge them. Like, I'd say even like if we look at like Bashar Putin, right?
Yeah,
We look at where he was fighting some obscure locations, some
yeah,
bizarre organizations which aren't commonly known, particularly like in the Western world as well.
mm, yeah,
With Roosevelt, he looks like there's just something about it. You know what I
mm,
mean? Like he doesn't necessarily look like super technical, I wouldn't
no,
say, but he just somehow does it, whether it be like headstand KOs or just catching these big strikes. Like what was the last guy he finished?
Bruno Ferreira, is it?
Ferreira,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, that's a good, really good first debut win.
definitely. So, and I think with Dumas, he's very like much. He has a lot of power,
Mm,
and he's got a big rim stature, but he also leaves himself very like prone to being finished because
yeah,
of it. Like I think that the way he kind of comes in, he kind of rushes in at times,
mm,
not with necessarily Florida strikes, but just the way he kind of steps in. There's just something about it. I can see Rosberg getting a finish. I'm gonna go first round. I just think his power.
yeah.
That's what it is. I really do. I think he's not. I don't know if it's lack of patience or whether it's a matter of just how he steps in. But like he's very prone.
Yeah, and that's a perfect point you make as well because from watching Dumas, he's very good in certain positions. He's a good, decent fighting at range. Could be a lot better. Doesn't use his jab enough, in my opinion, but he is good at this range. Rozabayev standing at 6'5", he's not going to have that weapon in this one. His grappling, although he got subbed by Josh Friend in his first UFC fight, I think. So we thought maybe he don't want to take the fights there, and then pretty much in every fight since has taken place on the ground. He out grappled Cody Brundage, and we know, I mean, Cody Brundage is not a very good fighter. Let's be real, but he's a decent wrestler at the least. Brundage has a very good collegiate wrestling. Division One. So Cedric Dumas not really having any grappling experience, managing to out grapple him. Maybe if it takes part on the ground, though, I think Rezabayev probably wins as well. Obviously, I don't really know the guys he's been submitting, but 15 of his wins coming by submission. I think 7 by knockout as well. He's a big guy who gets a lot of finishes. Um, Cedric Dumas though, he's a he's a real tough opponent, and I don't see him getting knocked out because he's kind of like he's like he's raw, which is not always a good thing. But in a fight like this, where it's just kind of about instincts to kind of stay out the way of the big dangers, I think Cedric Dumas will kind of have those. Only ever been finished by sub, and I I think if he loses, it'll be by submission. But I think I'm gonna go decision. Rezabayev, I think that, but I could change that to submission. Don't quote me on it.
Have you seen where he's fought? Dumas, different places.
I watched a few of his fights earlier. He had a lot in like the rings and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that's what I noticed.
Yeah,
And I also thought to myself, like you said, so the grappling's a good point. He also didn't always look that great though, the
no.
grappling. And that's the trouble. Like, if you're not that technically good on the ground, somebody who's very, very strong,
Mm,
assuming that they're technically sound,
yeah,
you're going to have a lot of issues with. I think he just leaves himself too vulnerable, I really do.
yeah.
And his last submission was because of vulnerability.
But I do think he showed so much improvements in the grappling since that submission loss. Like to be able the exits and escapes he was performing against Cody Brundage was really impressive, and I've like he's so young in his MMA career. These people just improve so fast, especially when you're as dedicated as someone like Dumas is. I have watched an interview with his coach talking about all the wrestling training they put him through for the Brundage camp, and yeah, here's a guy who works extremely hard. So again, we'll probably see another jump in skill, but Rezabayev, even if it starts going wrong, he's got 40 something fights to fall back on and experience. He's probably seen pretty much everything that Dumas can bring to him. So yeah, I think Rezabayev could win this in any fashion, really. I'm not saying Dumas doesn't have paths to victory, but wherever it goes, Rezabayev is a dangerous fighter. He can win on points, which he showed, decent cardio, brutal knockout power. That was a nasty knockout, caught the leg kick and just a straight right of Bruno Ferreira, and a lot of submission wins as well. So yeah, really, again, excited for this matchup. And yeah, I'm going Rezabayev. I'm gonna go decision for now. Getting on to the next one, Chris Weidman, Bruno Silva. What are you going with?
Getting Chris Weidman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Come on.
Like, I don't care about how he looked in his last fight or any of the 7 beforehand. He's got it. No, in fairness, you have to have a lot of respect for Chris Weidman. He's faced a lot of adversity.
Yeah.
And for somebody who's been in the UFC for as long as he has, and he's been in the UFC for a long time, particularly when we look at like just how long fighters tend to stay in the UFC for, he has fought like, you got to think he was fighting like the Anderson Silvers.
Yeah.
He fought a different generation.
Musashi,
Yeah.
Uriah Hall. Yeah, he's had some good matchups.
The Uriah Hall one was nasty as well.
Yeah.
That was like the tibia and the fibula.
Yeah.
And it's like, I didn't think that like legs were possible to move like that, even if they were broken.
That was probably worse than that was definitely worse than the Anderson one against him.
But yeah, I kind of assume maybe that like, surely there'd be something else in your leg, but if you break both the bones which connect it, then and it's pretty brutal. And then like you can also tell that like Tavares was really going for it as well.
Yeah.
This is an interesting one. If I'd like to see him win this, I really would, and I wasn't particularly impressed with the performance of Bruno Silva in his last fight.
No.
However, in all fairness, he was fighting a very different type of fighter to what he normally does, and he was being cautious as well. When you're being put against somebody who's making their UFC debut, by the way, like what a privilege to fight Bruno Silva on your UFC debut. You probably have been put against somebody who is very dangerous because they're not just giving anyone to anyone, are they?
They're trying to build him, aren't they?
Exactly, and there's a reason why they've put someone who's very well respected and somebody who's been about it, and somebody who's experienced and dangerous as well, very dangerous, against somebody like Shara Booten because of how it is, and he was being probably cautious because of that. With Chris Weidman, I don't know about how he's going to be looking, especially with Bruno Silva's kicks.
Yeah.
Especially the leg kicks. Like we look at the Tavares fight, for example. He was battering his legs, and it looked as if it could have been like a leg health event kind of finish.
Yeah, it was bad on it.
And although Brad Tavares is very technically sound everywhere, like he's one of his fighters, which just keeps getting better the older they
Mm,
get. And he's also been in there for years as
yeah.
well. Like years and years, he's just become this complete fighter now.
To be fair, Brad's probably a much harder matchup for Weidman than Bruno Silva is.
Yeah, no, definitely without
Yeah.
a doubt. Like Brad Tavares is kind of like in a backwards way in his prime, really.
Mm,
If you really think about it, like with how he performed anyway,
yeah,
how
yeah.
he's developed as a fighter, he's fighting like a fighter who's like in their peak almost.
Mm,
So I think taking that into account, Chris Weidman didn't look poor. However, the leg kicks were providing a massive issue, and I think that Bruno Silva, with his leg kicks, with his just general stand up, is going to cause a lot of issues. It's all going to be a matter of how he clears the wrestling.
mm,
So that's what Weidman's going to have to do. He's
yeah.
going to have to wrestle a
I
lot.
bloody hope he does, man. Because seems like he just forgot he was a wrestler.
Well, he tried against Tavares so
Yeah,
many times. I
yeah.
think
He couldn't really handle
he
those
what
legs.
10 takedown
Mm.
attempts and zero in success. Obviously, Tavares' takedown defense
Yeah,
is like
he's
next
always been
level.
known to have like some of the best takedown defense, to be fair.
So with this, hopefully he is able to get Brony Silva to the ground. I'm gonna go with Silva decision. I just think he's gonna be keeping him at bay. If he's clever, he's
I
gonna
thought
go
you
for his
said
leg
you were going
kicks.
Weidman.
That was a joke.
Ah, man.
But I do want Weidman to win
Hmm.
because he's the All American.
I do want Weidman to win as well, and I think Weidman is going to win. No, I'm joking too. I don't think Weidman's going to win. Weidman, since I mean, to be fair, they're both kind of washed. If we're going to be honest, aren't they?
Oh, that's harsh.
Is that harsh? Well, it's definitely not harsh to call Weidman washed. Let's be real.
Like, I'd say past their prime.
All right. Well, they're both past their prime, and Weidman's been past his prime since I've been a UFC fan, and he's caused me a lot of pain. He did get that win over Mario Ahmedov or whatever his name is, and he was looking really good in the Jacare Souza fight as well. But we're talking these are years ago, and these are still fights he got finished in. I mean, not the Ahmedov one, but the Jacare one he got knocked out brutally in, and that was like 2016 or something, I think. Like this was a long time ago, and I think he's had multiple surgeries. His whole leg surgery went completely wrong the first time, yet they had to completely redo it, which is just horrific. Like that's just gross. Having to wait 2 years for that one leg break is just so gutting, and that's what I would love to see him win. And let's not forget Bruno Silva is really bad on the ground. That is where anyone can beat him. Until the Alex Pereira fight, Bruno Silva, one of the most nastiest knockout artists we've seen. 19 out of his 22 wins have all come by knockout. I think it's like 12 in the first round or something like that as well. So real dangerous on the feet for Weidman. And yeah, I think I'm gonna go Bruno Silva. I'm gonna go second round TKO.
I'm gonna go decision.
Mm.
I am.
Yeah, I
I
was thinking about going decision, to be fair.
think Wyman's gonna do okay on the feet.
Yeah,
I
I
just think it's the leg kicks. Like it is. I think that his legs just aren't where they need to be.
and I do think there's a chance Wyman can make this. I think the first round will probably be bad for Wyman, but let's be real, Bruno Silva slows down. Bruno Silva's chin is kind of gone. He got, I mean, he survived 3 rounds of Alex Pereira landing but knees to the head, left hooks, all sorts, and then gets finished by Gerald Meerschaert's left hook in the next fight. So that just really shows what that took out of him, that war with Alex Pereira. I think going 3 rounds with Pereira and being a punch bag and not getting knocked out is one of the craziest things. For me, that's one of the biggest accolades you can have, surviving an Alex Pereira just battering you for 3 rounds. Like, that is crazy, but it took a lot of his MMA career, in my opinion. And that could serve well for Chris Weidman. Maybe, like I said on the phone earlier, I don't think Chris Weidman's tough, but I didn't mean it. I take that back because we saw in the fight with Tavares, I think all his knees were torn apart and stuff as well. Like his what is it, MCL or something? His knee.
His knee,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
could be anything.
Mm.
Like PC,
But one of the main ones, I can't remember what it's called, but ACL, MCL, something like that. I swear.
PCL was that one footballers get.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
so.
that's one like Beller and Harden like.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, in a real bad position from that, but showed his toughness. And Tavares really should have finished him if we're going to be honest. But he still wants it so bad, and that can drive a man. So, I'm sure both of us big rooting for Chris Weidman this weekend. If anyone can win on the main card, I'd want it to be him. So yeah, we're gonna have our fingers crossed when he's fighting. Getting on to the main event now. Aaron Blanchfield against Manon Fiorot. Really, it's actually a really good matchup skill wise, isn't it? Like Blanchfield, her last fight was, let's be real, quite boring to watch. She did struggle against the big power striker, and Manon Ferrer isn't very similar to Talia Santos, but in their stature and how dangerous they are on the feet, it's kind of similar. And we saw Blanchfield struggle in that, so it will be real interesting to see how Manon Ferrer just can kind of keep her away from getting to her legs. What do you think? Do you think it's going to be the striker or the grappler who takes this fight over?
It's hard though because it depends on how like Thoreau unloads.
Mm,
If she's kind of on it from the get go, it's often when she starts to see like a bit of damage or like an opening, she really pounces because she's like a rangy striker, but not so much in the sense of distance management, more in the sense of I'm going to take your head off,
yeah.
more in the sense of I'm coming towards you. And she also uses her kick as well to get in close as well.
Mm,
That big body kick, that
yeah.
roundhouse kind of. So it's really interesting. It's a really hard matchup. On the feet, she's without a doubt probably the better technical
Yeah, definitely.
fighter. Like so much cleaner.
Mm,
Erin Blanchfield, her striking is not necessarily her strong suit. Don't get me wrong. Like I wouldn't want to be hit by it.
no.
Whatsoever. Just the quantity as well as the power by the looks
Mm,
of it as well. However, I think with Thoreau, I think that just the range, but it's all a matter of what happens like if it goes to the ground.
mm,
Like if it goes to the ground, it's I'd like to think like Blanchfield takes it.
yeah.
So it's a really awkward one. I'm gonna go Blanchfield. I'm gonna go third round finish.
Yeah, I'm gonna go fourth round submission for Blanchfield.
Yeah, I mean it could be either to be fair.
Mm,
Like a submission probably is slightly more realistic,
yeah.
but I think that with this, if it's a 3 round fight, like maybe Farouk could potentially like win by decision, very possibly
Mm,
just by what she'd be
yeah.
doing on the feet. However, to go 5 rounds, I can't see this. I can see this fight going 5 rounds, like with a lot of clinching and whatnot.
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely a
Like
possibility.
that is a really big possibility. However, I'm gonna go finish. I think that
Mm,
someone's gonna get finisher.
yeah. And the interesting point is it being 5 rounds. We know Blanchfield sort of weaponizes her pace in the fight, and she's so tough and just tenacious when she's out there. Tenacious, yeah, tenacious out there. That she's just like always on the hunt, and she's really just puts on a lot of pressure. I think Manafaro will slowly break to that, but I'm no expert, so I don't know. Manafaro could very well win this fight. There is a few little news topics I want to talk about. There is one with Joshua Phobia that seems a bit too deep. I don't know if I really necessarily want to touch on that, but I guess we can speak about it a little bit. Joshua Fabia, I'm sure we will remember that name. He's let's call him an MMA, what is he, a fighting guru, isn't he? He's a genius when it comes to this stuff because we saw him kicking Diego Sanchez in the head when he's hung upside down and stuff. Really good stuff for conditioning the chin. We've just seen so many great techniques that Joshua Fabia has created. And yeah, he's in the papers again, isn't he? All jokes aside, this guy seems a little bit crazy. Diego Sanchez was kind of the perfect victim, if you like, where if he really did kind of pick on Diego and try and exploit him by the sounds of it, Diego Sanchez losing a lot of money and it's just it just seems like a really awkward situation. There's claims that Fabio is a trained hitman in the mafia, and there's the threats from the Sanchez family. Really crazy situation. And it went from, I remember Matt Sarah and Paul Felder calling this guy out in the fire meetings and stuff because he was a guy that just craved attention. He was like complaining that they weren't asking him no questions in the fighters meeting. It's not the coaches meeting, it's the fighters meeting. I remember Paul Felder just lost his head at him. Like, I haven't seen the video in a while. I should have watched it before this, but I remember, yeah, people did not like this guy, and now there's a restraining order, and it looks like Fabio's broke that. Fabio just really causing a lot of problems for Diego Sanchez. I'm glad Sanchez has sorted it out, but yeah, it's just a crazy scenario, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it is. From reading what I'm reading here, this isn't like from like kind of like a really like I don't know how valid this is, but apparently he had a website where he described himself as a healer.
Yeah, no, this is all true. I know this.
Yeah,
Yeah, he had a lot of weird like coaching plans and stuff.
this is like due to something completely separate. So,
Oh, really?
yeah, like you always get these personalities, really,
Mm.
and it's interesting. Like it's all very concerning. The whole idea of like mafia hitman. I don't know how much of that I believe,
Mm.
but
So
you
that's
never know. You
yeah,
never know. Like it's just a very like obscure thing. But this is what it's like. Every kind of I think every kind of sporting business or any like fighting, well, anyway, not it doesn't happen so much with like these other like team sports and whatnot.
mm,
But when we see like these personalities in boxing and MMA, there are always these really interesting characters who it's like they've been fighting for like 15 years and
yeah,
like finish for like 10 of those.
yeah,
You know what I mean? There's just something not quite right.
mm,
And we saw it a lot with like Aikido masters and whatnot.
yeah, yeah.
A lot of them showing these techniques and
Steven
whatnot.
Seagal.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know too much about him, but
Yeah, he was Steven Seagal is not on this level, let's say, but he did con his way into a living for a while. I think like Anderson helped him do that as well. Anderson sort of claimed that he helped him show him a lot of the moves he's got. But we've seen, yeah, like you say, Aikido, the main one, the main corporate in this. And again, a lot of like sort of American films sort of what would you say, romanticize these sort of martial artists where, us as real MMA fans and we know for fighting you see a lot of like people deluded by these ideas of what you can do by these sort of moves. And Fabio was very much that guy.
it's,
Do
it's like the Kickbox films, isn't it? Really, like a lot
Yeah.
of things in there. I didn't even like. Even if you don't really know what like Muay Thai is or Thai
Mm,
kickboxing, you watch that and you'd be like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." But like,
yeah.
you're not ever really seeing that in
No.
Thai kickboxing.
No. Let's get a few little quotes from Diego Sanchez about the situation. He says, "For the past 2 years, I've been running from a very traumatic experience." Sanchez said in the video, words cannot even explain how traumatizing this was. It involves a very evil man who manipulated, blackmailed, extorted me, and eventually put an end to my UFC career. I've been dealing with this psychopath for I don't know, it's bleeped out some swear word. It's been 3 years, 4 years. He paid him out. I paid him money to get him out of my life because the situation had become so volatile, so evil, and so dark. There was no other option. Either he was going to kill me, or I was going to kill him. This is mental, isn't it? Like,
Yeah,
and we really did see Diego Sanchez change because of this scenario. So yeah, this Fabio guy really does seem like a dodgy bit of work. And Sanchez, I've heard Dana White, Anthony Smith said this, so I don't know how true it is, but apparently Dana White helping Diego Sanchez a lot. Obviously, Diego Sanchez came out with a lot of weird things back in the day, saying like Dana White's trying to get him assassinated and stuff like this. So that was a weird scenario. And Dana White always said, once this whole Fabio stuff is over, I'll be the one helping Diego Sanchez out. And it looks like he is doing that. Obviously, we can't really have much of a discussion on this because it's such a sort of in-depth case. I don't know if there's gonna be like law involved now or whatever. But yeah, Diego Sanchez, I'm just so glad he's got that guy out of his life. And getting on to a bit more of a positive topic, just last thing we'll talk on. Conor McGregor's Roadhouse film came out. Not watched it yet. I'm sure you haven't. Maybe we'll watch it and talk about it on the pod, what we think. But aside from that, apparently we've actually got a fight time now. I know we said we weren't going to talk about it until it was officially announced, but I think that him and Chandler both said they got the call for June. Conor McGregor looking very intoxicated in some of his interviews. Do you think he'll be in any type of like June? How far away is June? Like not that far at all, really, is it?
no, that's literally like 2 months.
Yeah, I don't see it happening in June. Surely not. But if it does, what are the chances you're giving Conor McGregor in that fight?
Well, you never know, but that's the thing. Like, I mean, I know that the interview you showed me like didn't look great.
Yeah, it's bad.
However, in all fairness, like maybe he's just really tired. Like, yeah, and it's a possibility that
Yeah, but we're just gonna be naive to it if we're saying that. We know what's going on in this.
yeah. Well, so it appears. So it
Yeah,
appears. Uh, Him having a fight in a couple months' time, that will be interesting to see how he does. I think that when you've trouble is because he's taken quite a bit of time out, and
Mm.
it feels like with his most recent bouts, he's been taking a bit more time out between his
Yeah,
fights.
I mean the leg break didn't help, did it?
No, I mean, just get on with it. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
broken leg,
Man
mate.
up, yeah.
Like the way I look at, you look at. I mean, he's what 39, the guy
Mm.
fighting on this card.
Yeah, Chris.
Like Chris, yeah. I mean, Chris Weidman's fighting at 39. And he broke 2 bones.
Mm.
Just get over it. You know what I mean?
To be fair, it's an interesting point you do say because he's obviously been ready to fight for a while, hasn't he? But we don't know if the film's been sort of stopping that or
Of a massive cycle of Gary's been on. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like
yeah, true. Yeah, there's a
that's
lot of
probably was
factors.
the
Yeah,
USADA testing pool was probably a really big influential
yeah,
factor. And I mean, maybe at the age of 30 or whatever it may be, you can actually put on like 40 pounds of muscle over the space of a few months. Maybe it's possible, and like
mm,
scientists are just wrong. But no, there were multiple reasons. I think though, when you're not fighting consistently, when you've probably not been training consistently, if you're shooting a film, the likelihood is that you're not training nearly as much as you should be for a UFC fighter.
yeah,
You just haven't got the time, let alone the energy to do so. I think like the consistency of it. It would be great to see Conroy come back and like really redeem himself.
yeah,
It would be.
yeah. It would.
However, it's also a very hard ask, especially against somebody like Chandler.
Mm,
And what will happen, hopefully, is if he were to lose to Chandler, which is a high possibility, hopefully they maybe throw him against top 10 opponents, obviously, but not these Chandlers or Poiriers
it's
or
just hard not to put him against those type of people
because he's
because
such a name.
yeah,
It's almost like criminal to do so.
yeah, exactly.
It makes no sense from a business perspective, really. But
But
like maybe some up and comer who's like
you just got to build a name off him. Someone who's mental.
maybe it's like Benoit Saint-Denis' next fight.
I think Benoit would probably run through Conor McGregor.
Well, possibly, but I think that would be like a good like testing point.
Yeah, yeah,
Although saying that by that point it would have been like 6 months of Benoit Saint-Denis,
mm, yeah,
and so obviously he's probably going to be fighting before then. Regardless, though, it's interesting. I think that Chandler being in the shape he is, being the athlete he is, and then you look at McGregor's antics just in
yeah.
general,
That's the worry for me.
you don't know how fresh he's going to be
Mm,
and how in the game he's going to be. And it could just be a matter of this could be like one of his final paydays.
yeah.
This could be his final payday.
Like it's one of these fights where if Chandler runs through him in about 2 minutes, we'll look at Chandler and be like, yeah, I'm not surprised about that. But if anyone was going to come from this, because let's be real, a lot. I mean, Conor doesn't help himself, but he's coming from a very bad situation that he couldn't really help. He was looking. He's always been looking to fight more active, and I'm a strong believer in Conor McGregor. It's not his fault he's been this inactive. I have many reasons why I think the UFC have held him back from fighting. I might even do a separate video on that because it's a thing that I think Dana White's been sort of holding him back. He's pretty much held him from his whole prime now, Conor, really. We haven't really seen Conor since he was like 29 be active in the UFC, so we've missed out on Conor McGregor's whole prime, and he has improved in that time. You got to think how many fights Chandler's had against top level opponents in that time. But if anyone was going to come back from the scenario he is and knock Chandler out, it's going to be an athlete like Conor McGregor, let's be real, because in his prime, that guy was as special as it gets. He had that aura about him, like the Anderson did when Anderson was just knocking out like 12 people in a row, just like it was nothing. Like Conor did have that sort of aura. I'm not gonna lie, he was, I was kind of a UFC fan before he got into it, but he changed the whole game. So there's nothing I want like. Although as a person, I'm not the biggest fan of Conor McGregor. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm still to this day, Poirier is one of my favorite ever fighters. I've never wanted Conor McGregor to lose a fight while I've been watching it, and I don't think I ever will want him to lose a fight just because there's always that. If he comes back and manages to, I know he won't win a title, but let's just say in this make believe land he did. Imagine the story like that's something you can make a movie off, in it? The life he's lived then and comes back and wins the UFC title. So there was always that sort of hope in the back of my head, but it's not likely, is it?
Do you reckon if he does beat Chandler, they'll just fast track into like Makachev?
Probably, yeah, probably. Probably have one more against like he'll fight Poirier again or
Yeah.
Justin Gaethje. Like those fights are huge, and then he'll fight for the title. I think they will look to do that Poirier fight again at some point. I
Mm.
think the leg that would just there's so many ways, different ways to sell that. They one's knocked one out, one's knocked the other out, and then there's a brutal leg break in their third fight. So that is maybe the way they'll go with it if he wins that fight.
Yeah, no, there is a lot of with Conor though, like you said, there's a lot of things you can do to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I think Conor McGregor, he's always going to kind of stay relevant. Like he's one of those names where unless he doesn't fight, like within the next couple years or
Mm,
so, he's going to be a very
yeah,
relevant big selling name. Like he just is because of what he did. Because if you really think about it, like his UFC career, he hasn't had a long UFC career yet,
not
really.
necessarily, no.
Like in
It's like
contrast to a lot of
average for
fighters,
a champion, really.
average, and he's not even had the activity level of a
No.
champion at all. Like he's not had nearly as many fights. It's just he's done it all so quickly.
Mm,
He did it all over the space of a few years.
yeah, which is just crazy. That guy just skyrocketed himself so much, didn't he?
Definitely so, and it would be interesting because there are a lot of cool fights to make in the future if he does get back into it. He's
Mm,
just made so much money now,
yeah,
where it's almost like he doesn't need to fight
no.
ever again, really.
And even if he does fight, you're telling me what, like, even if he's miles better than these young up and comers, that don't matter. If he's way better skill wise, they'll find a way to beat him because, like, deep down, he's just content now. He's got to
Yeah.
be, really. These guys are going to be chasing greatness. Even someone like Chandler, he's going to be so much more motivated to win that fight than Conor McGregor will, in my opinion.
Well, yeah,
There's so much.
it's like almost the biggest fight he's ever had.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
like this is
without
like, and he's waited 2 years for it as well. He's been sat around not fighting anyone. He's wasted 2 years of, Chandler came to UFC when he was like 36 himself or something like that. So he's like really old now, so he's probably wasted the chance to maybe have two more fights and go fight for another title just to wait round to fight Conor McGregor. So I guarantee you when that fight happens, Chandler's gonna be more motivated than ever just to take his head off. So. Looking forward to that one. Probably going to see it this year. I actually do think we will. I've kind of been on and off. Do you think we'll see the fight this year?
I do. I don't know about June,
No, I
but I
don't
think
think.
hopefully.
Yeah.
Although Paulo Costa kept promising fights like a couple
Mm.
months away, and that never happened. Give it 5 years though, him and Holloway super fight.
Yeah, yeah, to
That
be
would be
fair.
sick. Like they got to run that back.
Yeah,
They got. I mean,
yeah.
I think Connor's just way too big for that now, though.
Yeah, but no, they can fight like Conor can make 155. He's still a
Hey, I
tiny
mean,
little man, really.
you can make 150. Well, maybe once everything like hit
Mm.
that system.
Yeah, he's not looking that big at the moment. But that's all we've got to talk about today. Yeah, there was a few interesting new topics to talk about. But yeah, if you enjoyed this week's episode, make sure to like, subscribe, give rate us 5 stars on Spotify, share us around. So that's how this podcast will grow, and we hope you enjoyed.